Good evening. I'm happy to welcome all of my fellow board members and call the August 11th, 2020 school board meeting to order. We continue to modify meeting processes in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Public attendance is permitted on a limited basis, allowing for 30 persons in addition to staff and board members to be present. Persons wishing to make public comments are able to make them in person, or we're able to make recorded comments. Ms. Escobar, roll call, please.
Mrs. Belford?
Present?
Ms. McDougall?
Present.
Mrs. Deskovich?
Present.
Mr. Susan?
Present.
And Mrs. Campbell?
Present.
The board will now hold a moment of silent reflection in memory of one of our BPS family members who recently passed away, Eugene Benderup, better known as Jeep, a teacher from Challenger 7 Elementary. Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would like to offer my fellow board members and Dr. Mullins the opportunity to recognize students, staff, or members of the community. Who would like to start us off this evening? Ms. McDougall.
I only have two. First, I want to give a big shout out to Principal Reed at Endeavor for becoming Teacher of the Year. So, yay for Principal Reed. And then I also want to give a shout out to another one of my principals at Saturn, Miss Corey Hurst. Am I saying her name right? Hurst. Because she's very creative and she has gone out of her way to register our students. Sometimes it's difficult for our parents to get to that school, so she was creative enough to go to the local park and meet them where they are. So shout out to Miss Hurst. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. Ms. Deskovich?
Sure. Of course, we want to thank all of our administrators and school-based teams for getting the schools ready, and all the facilities teams, and getting our schools ready for teachers to come back yesterday. And we want to welcome back all of our teachers.
Ms. Deskovich, can you get friendly with your mic, please?
Yeah. Closer? Like
Yep,
really
thanks.
close. Here. We want to welcome back all of our teachers. Is that better?
Much
Okay.
better.
To their first day back yesterday. I know that things were a little crazy and definitely very different, but feedback so far has been good, at least what I've heard. So hopefully we'll continue on that path. I also want to thank Brevard Schools Foundation. I know a few of us on Saturday went up to Clear Lake Middle School, or Clear Lake Adult Education Center, for their annual backpack giveaway. Miss Campbell and Miss Belford we're on the same team. We're on one of the food services teams. And we want to thank Farm Share Florida. They donated 42,000 pounds of fruits and vegetables that we were able to, just huge boxes of fresh peaches and all kinds of fruits and vegetables we were able to place in people's trunks. And they gave away 2,000 backpacks, Brevard Schools Foundation did, and some school supplies. So it was a fun day, and they had to do it completely different than any other year. It had to be a drive-through this time, where we were all outside distributing the food and the supplies. So they did an excellent job. It was very well organized, and we just want to give them a huge thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Ms. Campbell?
All right. So just also want to thank Brevard Schools Foundation and also the partners, in addition to Farm Share. I know Parish Health and the Highland Mint and so many partners who provided the supplies and the backpacks and everything that they always do, but just did a great job supporting our students and the Schools Foundation. Another backpack giveaway happened this Saturday before one of our great partners down in the South End, Center Point Church, who does a huge backpack event, and they weren't able to have their traditional with the medical checks and haircuts and balloons and popcorn and hot dogs, but they, even on the 1st, when we were all getting ready for what might have been a hurricane, turned out to be just a little windy day, they were there on Saturday morning, even in uncertainty, providing backpacks and school supplies to the community down there. And from the pictures that I saw, they had a great turnout. So thank you, Center Point Church. So yesterday, as opening day, as I like to call it, got to spend the morning at Southwest Middle School, and thank you to Mr. Shaw and all their team for a great kickoff for our teachers as they came together for a few hours before they are going to do the rest of their prep time, mostly via Skype or Zoom, but it was a great opening day. And also to our new teachers, in the district, I had a little year old moment last night when I realized that a young man who was in the 3rd grade when we moved to Brevard in a summer music camp that I worked at is actually the new music teacher at Columbia Elementary. So just had a little year old moment yesterday, but just so thankful for all our brand new to teaching and brand new to Brevard teachers who have joined our team this year, and excited for what you're going to bring to the district.
Ms. Deskovich.
Sorry, I forgot 2 very important people. This evening we'll be appointing to the City of Satellite Beach Planning Board Melissa Christensen, who has volunteered to serve her time in that capacity, and Aaron Shuck to the Indian Harbor Beach Planning Board. So I want to thank both of them for giving their time and service. Thanks.
Super. Mr. Susan.
Yeah, so I don't have an individual to talk about tonight. I wanted to talk about what I'm going to call my heroes. And I drive around. I've been to New Smyrna. I've been all over the place over the last couple of weeks and just taking the kids to beaches and stuff like that. And I see these little signs that say, "Our heroes, first responders," right? And it's got nurses, doctors, that stuff, but no teachers, no custodians, no any of that. So, you know, when I look at our custodians who have worked all summer to make sure that when these teachers come back, we're prepared and ready, and they're getting ready to go through those are my heroes. When I look at the lunch teams that have fed these people all summer long, and they're getting ready to feed tens of thousands of kids coming in, socially distanced, everything else, half the staff in some cases, they're my heroes. You know what I mean? The bus drivers who are getting ready to get the kids on the bus, try to force them to wear a mask if appropriate, try to get them on there, try to get them off, socially distanced. They're our heroes, you know? And I don't think people sit there and they put a lot of, you know, the nurses are great, everybody else is great, but nobody's sitting in a room on a bus with 40 kids or 20 kids, in a room with 18, 15, 20 kids all day long. And we're about to do something that nobody else has done. Nobody has ever fathomed what we're about to do. And we're going and plowing head first right into it to make it happen. And these are my heroes. Like I don't care what anybody says. I thought about just trying to go scrounge up some money and make some signs and go put them out in front of people's houses because I appreciate them so much. And, you know, the support staff and the teachers and the administration, I mean, these guys are trying to pull together and be positive with our teachers, trying to be as positive as possible in an environment that's very difficult for everybody. And so these are my people and these are my heroes. And I wanted to say thank you to them today. Nice. Not one individual, but all together as one, and I'm ready. I'm ready to do what we're about to do. And we are a team in Brevard. And this calls out for all of the other churches and all of the businesses and everybody that's been sitting back and everything else. We need your help too. And it's time. So let's go. All right, I'm done. Sorry. I'm going to keep going if you let me keep the time.
Thank you, Mr. Susan.
All right.
Dr. Mullins.
Thank you, Ms. Belford, and thank you, Mr. Susan, for those acknowledgments of the team across our great district.
Union guys are my heroes too sometimes.
I would like to look back just to acknowledge some schools, administrators particularly, who hosted our GEAR summer program, which I'm not going to remember what the acronym GEAR stands for, but it was the governor's, it was a rather late announcement that he was providing funding for an extended summer enrichment instructional program for some of our youngest learners and for 4th and 5th graders in certain situations. So we had 13 schools step up and provide summer enriched learning opportunities for a few hundred of our students. Atlantis Elementary School, Principal Jennifer Clark, Cape View Elementary, Principal Jill Keene, Coquina Elementary, Principal Blair Lovelace. Discovery Elementary, Principal Carrie Castillo. Endeavor Elementary, Principal Chris Reed. Gulfview, Principal Maggie Rassel. Harbor City Elementary, Principal Joy Salamone. Mila Elementary, Principal Donna O'Brien. Mims Elementary, Principal Cheryl Haskin. Palm Bay Elementary, Principal Michael Mall. Saturn Elementary, Principal Corey Hurst. Sherwood Elementary, Principal Sandra Marinas. And Turner Elementary, Principal Ashley Toll. And nearly every one of those principals were also hosting our summer feeding program. So we had students and individuals coming through our schools, families coming in and receiving breakfast and lunches like we did during the spring session and earlier in the summer. So just in addition to preparing for buildings for our amazing teachers returning yesterday and all of the other summer obligations and responsibilities.
Heroes.
Absolutely heroes. So wanted to give the shout out to those principals as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. The Brevard Schools Foundation event this weekend was mentioned, but I wanted to call out an individual. She is actually one of our Madison teachers, and her name is Sarah Ray, and she started a group on Facebook called Masks for Students Brevard a while back, and they started gathering up masks, and they partnered with Brevard mask makers. Just totally an organic movement to make sure that our kids had masks in schools. And so they were able to, I don't know how many volunteers took part in this, but they provided 2,500 masks to the Brevard Schools Foundation to give out during their back-to-school giveaway this weekend. In addition to that, they have provided over 600 masks to our north and central area schools, just going and dropping masks off at the school, along with their contact information, so if the school needs more masks, they can contact them to get them. And so I just thought that was really awesome that, speaking of our teachers and our heroes, not only are they doing great things in the classroom, working really hard to make sure that they are ready for our students to return, but I know for a fact that a lot of the people that have been a part of this mask effort are representatives from different areas of our schools too. So many thanks to them for doing all of that. And then I just want to give a huge shout out to Sue Han and Russell Cheatham and Robin Novelli and our security team. If you were not with us for our 2 o'clock workshop today, they did a presentation about our sales surtax, our first sales surtax, as well as the importance of a second sales surtax to the district and where those dollars will be going. And they've done a phenomenal job of laying out all of the different aspects of the very detailed data-oriented assessments that have been done in the district to really steer where we need to go. And so thank you to all of you for your hard work on that. And to our public, please go back and watch that. It's available online. Lots of great information that I think is important to our community to understand exactly what that sales surtax means for our district. So, and with that, we will move to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Mullins.
Ms. Belford and members of the board, on tonight's agenda, we have administrative staff recommendations, 12 consent items, 4 action items, and 3 information items. The changes made to the agenda since being released to the public on August 4 are as follows. Item A7 on administrative staff recommendations and G21 on emergency rule policy regarding face coverings were revised. Items F14 on coronavirus aid, relief and economic security, CARES Act, G22 amendment to school reopening plan, face coverings, H25 adult education and family literacy, integrated English literacy and civics education grant for the 2020-2021 and 8 school year, and H26 on adult education and family literacy programs, adult general education, English literacy and civics education, and family literacy grant for the 2020-21 school years are additions.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? Please vote. And I believe that was 5-0, Ms. Escobar? It disappeared from my screen and wouldn't let me see it for some reason. All right, Dr. Mullins, will you please let us know about the administrative staff recommendations?
Yes, Ms. Belford and board members, there are 6 persons on this agenda item for the board to consider.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Deskovich. Is there any discussion? Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0. That brings us to presentations. And Dr. Mullins, I think you had a brief presentation to share with us this evening.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, members of the board again, and the viewing audience that's here and the viewing public. I wanted to take this opportunity to actually give a formal welcome to our nearly 5,000 teachers, educators across our great district who returned to their schools, as well as our resource teachers who returned to ESF yesterday. Had the opportunity to get through a couple of the pods yesterday and welcome back several of our employees and talk with them and already see some of the great work that they're committing to support our teachers across our district. I also want to take this opportunity to commend our principals for working so diligently over a very uncertain and changing summer in anticipation of the start of the school year, which we know the start date changed a couple times throughout the summer, but also for them just doing an extraordinary job of creating a positive start in this realm of new normal, to bring their teachers and their teams back together to begin working to kick off our school year. But in addition, it's been a challenging summer for all of our employees as we've changed calendars and so on. In the coming week, we'll be welcoming back our bus drivers, food service workers, our instructional assistants, group leaders, office clerks, as campus monitors, just to name a few of our employees across our district. And again, I echo Mr. Susan's comments earlier that Brevard Public Schools is blessed to be an organization that is not made up of walls, buildings, structures, but it's made up of people, heroes across our district who break down barriers and obstacles to students' success and for their future. I wanted to take just a few moments. I know several of the board members were here when I shared just a couple reflections with our leaders last week in preparation for our school teams to return around leadership and bringing just some additional personal insights that I had over the last few weeks in preparation for our start. And we've all seen these different words that contribute to or define or identify what leadership is as an individual. And there is power in words. We've certainly learned that challenge, a situation of being faced with something that needs great mental or physical effort in order to be done successfully and therefore tests a person's ability, has been the reality for every one of our heroes across our organization. But yet, there's another word, and there's a connection to these two words, and I'll ask you just to stick with me for a moment. But another word that was brought to my attention, and that is the word miracle. And we know that to be a highly improbable or extraordinary event, development, or accomplishment that brings a very welcome consequence, or or perhaps an excellent achievement in a particular area or activity. But the interesting thing about these two words is I learned recently through one of the graduation speeches of our principal at Edgewood Junior Senior High School, Jackie Ingrata. She shared that those two words, their Hebrew origin or root word, come from the same word, nisayon and nes. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing them correctly, but they both have the same root word, which means to lift up or elevate. And I would suggest that our leaders and our heroes across our districts, our district, our teachers, our instructional assistants, our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, our resource teachers, our district leaders, their commitment to teamwork and their commitment to leadership took a word like challenge that we've had no shortage of over the last many months, and together turned them into miracles. And that, in fact, is what Impact Elevated is. Together, we can, we have, and we will turn challenges into miracles. I shared with our leaders last week that in the midst of all of the challenges we faced and even the miracles we've experienced and those that we're anticipating, it's time to come around not only our absolute number one priority of reopening our schools safely, but also continuing to deliver a high-quality educational experience for every student. It still is our mission, while also supporting our kids and each other. Because teamwork and team is what is going to carry us through the challenges we face together ahead. But also I reminded our principals, and I share with the board again, and our community, my commitment to elevating our pursuit of equity across our organization. And I want to thank the board for allowing me to bring forward the recommendation of a director position that will prioritize and focus on our commitment to equity and diversity for our district moving forward. And that job description is on the agenda tonight for approval. And then also, Ms. Belford, thank you for acknowledging our bringing to our community the renewal of the half-cent sales tax, an absolutely critical and essential revenue source for to maintain our facilities. But also our priority to ensure that we inform our employees, our parents, and our community of the need for a sales surtax renewal. We're in the education business, and it's not just in this case for our kids, but is for our entire community, and we've made a commitment to do that. But being sensitive to the new normal and the environment we're in, committing to being responsive, being responsible, and being reasonable as we work together to achieve these goals. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to just share that message with our community at large, our leaders again, welcome our teachers and our staff across our great district back, and the commitment to teamwork to turn challenges into miracles. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. Okay, at this point, we are at public comments. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, speakers could record comments through advanced registration or can be here in person. We have 6 speakers here in person with us tonight, and I believe 2 recorded speakers that we will listen to after we finish the in-person public speaking. So our order will be Bill Perlman, Gwendolyn Sisto, Chloe Murphy, Dolores Varney, Anthony Colucci, and Robert Ray. Just a reminder, you have 3 minutes, and the lights in front of me here will tell you when you are running out of time and when you are out of time. Our speakers will be speaking from the microphone in the center of the room. Obviously, appropriate decorum for any young people who may be watching from home is appreciated. So, Bill Perlman, if you would please approach.
Chairwoman and Belford, members of the school board, Dr. Mullins, good evening. My name is Bill Perlman. I'm proud to be one of your heroes tonight, to use the word that was used earlier. I'm a district resource teacher. I'm here today to share a concern, but I come prepared with a solution, and more importantly, the solution has zero cost to the district. I'm actually here to request some flexibility and grace for your employees, especially since we're often reminded how important this is to demonstrate towards our students. Like all teachers, I recently received my very much anticipated welcome back letter, and in that letter, it was announced a 3-hour department meeting to be held on the morning of our first day back, which was yesterday, August 10th. That said, please note that although the meeting will be held virtually, all employees are expected to report to their office site for their work days. At this time, working from home is not an option. Now, since this was a 3-hour virtual meeting, and since I share office space here at ESF with 3 other people, I requested that I be able to attend virtually from home, where for just a small part of the day I wouldn't be worried about COVID-19. But I was immediately directed to risk management, where the only option was to request an accommodation under Americans with Disabilities Act. And unfortunately, perhaps fortunately, I am not eligible under ADA because I don't have, quote, a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. Do I really have to be disabled before I'm afforded some consideration? Where is the flexibility and grace? My supervisor eventually told me that she did not have the discretion to offer the flexibility to attend that meeting from home. Is that acceptable to the board? Do you really want there to be no flexibility or grace for employees to attend a virtual meeting from a safe location while we are living and working in the epicenter of a pandemic? Why does my supervisor not have that discretion? So let's fix this right now. And I'm not looking for a blanket approval, but I do request that you please direct the superintendent to allow our principals, our directors, all supervisors to demonstrate grace and flexibility for our teachers and all employees, all of your heroes. When they feel it's appropriate, they should be empowered to approve similar requests. Let's fix this. Demonstrate some trust towards the principals and directors. Allow them to make reasonable judgments. Please, please give guidance to the superintendent and his staff to be flexible and demonstrate grace with their employees, because we all deserve that. As I sit here this evening, I will be listening. I hope that one of you will provide the superintendent with this guidance. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Bill. Gwendolyn Sisto?
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My daughter is an MIHS student. She's an AP student entering 12th grade. Like many parents, I'd like to keep her home and do the e-learning option. Based on our experience from 3rd and 4th quarter last semester, though, I feel my only option is to send her in person, at least for most of her classes. This is due to some of the, I'd say, variation that we saw. So let me give you 2 examples. So there was some really great examples. For example, in her AP government class, she was given mostly free response type homework assignments about once a week. There was an emphasis on quality of assignments, not just quantity. Every assignment, she received individualized feedback. As a result, she got a 5 on an exam. In another class, she was given a disparate assortment of online sites to go to. Go to this site, submit the response here. This is optional, this is not optional. Only about 4 of her assignments were even similar to the AP exam format. So for me, I feel I have no choice but to send her back in class. So on behalf of parents, I guess what I'd ask you, if I leave you with one thing, is can we focus more on more quality of the assignment, giving individualized feedback? If teachers are just giving endless Khan Academy assignments that focus on just getting the answer, just filling in the blank, the students aren't learning. And what we learned about the College Board AP exam this past year, it was more conceptually based, more free response, even for AP Calc and AP Chem. So I implore you to please examine that a bit more, and I did by chance let my local principal know as well, which is why I'm here. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Ms. Sister. We appreciate you
Thank
joining us
you.
this evening. Chloe Murphy.
I'm sorry, I do have to use my phone, and may I remove my mask to speak into the microphone? Thank you so much. I'm not sure how to start. There's no direct line through my speech to just get to directly what I want to say. So I'll start with the simple things. Hi, my name is Chloe Murphy. I'm a rising senior at Astronaut High School. It has taken me every ounce of strength and passion to come here tonight from where I live in Titusville, Florida. I'm a normal 17-year-old whose life is not so normal anymore. On March 13th, I left my school, had saying goodbye to my friends and teachers, thinking 2 weeks, sweet, I get to catch up on sleep. But as spring break progressed, I slowly saw my life as I knew it disappear as if it never existed. Today, I want to speak to you and read some many testimonials on the idea of extracurricular activities improving academic performance and mental health within our schools. I know what is to come from this. You've heard this talk many times and you know the ins and outs of it, but you haven't heard me talk. And those who have heard me talk know that when I start on something, I don't stop until I get my goal. I'm a marching band student, been one for 3 years and going on 4 now. I'm also one of the editor-in-chiefs of the nationally renowned yearbook, The Golden Airy. None of this has to do with my talk, though, not my credentials or the multiple social media accounts I run through for the schools. This talk has to do with multiple testimonies I have collected over the past 24 hours. Former Astronaut High School band director Dr. Justin Davis, former varsity football player, former cheerleader, and former drum major, and many others. Something that all these testimonies show is that I can't imagine what my year would have been like if I had nowhere to place my stress without being on the field, the stage, or the dance floor. And while I could sit here and read these testimonies for almost an hour, I don't have the time to do that. These were almost sent all the way from Wisconsin, too. So my last testimony today, I have to read before y'all, is a story of a bright-eyed girl who started as a freshman. She started band as a freshman, and now as a senior, she holds multiple superior titles and championships from her day and her specialty. She works hard within her community to improve mental health advocacy for students because somehow it's the 21st century and this country is stuck in the 50s. She spends her Friday night during the fall season in the stadium. It's her favorite place to be, nothing like the smell of fresh football turf. None of this could have been done without the help of multiple extracurricular activities and her high school teachers teaching her that tomorrow isn't promised and kindness is everything. She has found her family within a group of students that once upon a time were just a group of strangers. This story sounds familiar, and it's because it's mine. There is something magical about high school sports and extracurricular activities. We all have different backgrounds, different home lives, but the minute we step on the field, in the band room, or in the stadium, we are a team, a group of individuals that ordinary alone but extraordinary together. I am metaphorically on my knees, begging you, no, I am asking you for please let me have my senior season. There shouldn't be a question of if we can have extracurricular activities this year. There should be a how can we safely do them this year. Our mental health is just as important as our physical. Thank you so much tonight.
Thanks, Chloe. Dolores Barney.
My name is Dolores Varney, business rep for Local 1010 Brevard Support Staff Union. I'd like to take time to thank each of you for all the hard work you've done. I know you've had unbelievable decisions to make, very difficult ones, and I commend you. I thank you so much for what you've done. I want today to ask each of you to please do not forget about the support staff. I know that most of you have them in your mind when you're making decisions, but I would like you to please continue to do so.
A little closer to the mic for me. They're not getting a good.
Now, can you hear me? I need to get more personal like Tina, right? Yes. We all have the knowledge that if not for the students, there would be no Brevard Public Schools. Without the teachers, there would be no one to instruct the students and encourage them to grow in knowledge. If not for the bus drivers, most students would not be able to attend school. Transportation is a must. Excuse me. Without the custodial staff, students and staff would not have a clean school facility to learn and work in. Instructional assistants, personal care assistants, those that assist in the classrooms are very needed. Please do not forget about them. Food service employees, have you ever tried to teach a hungry student? The food service employees are very important to everyone, to every student and their everyday life. Clerical, financial, accounting, risk management, administrative secretaries, clerk typists, office clerks, bookkeepers, accounting specialists, payroll specialists, media assistants, just to mention a few positions in the support staff that do a wonderful job in assisting with keeping the schools and facilities running smoothly. BPS maintenance department, carpenters, electricians, grounds technicians, electronic technicians, equipment operators. Think about the HVAC technicians. Without them to keep the air conditioning working, rooms would be hot, learning and teaching would be very uncomfortable. Lawn care technicians, locksmiths, masons, painters, plumbers, and roofers. And yes, there are many other support staff positions that keep BPS schools operational. We take pride in the hardworking, dedicated support staff and hope each of you will appreciate them and never forget their positions and how important they are to the operation of Brevard Public Schools in any decisions that you may make. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope each of you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Dolores, and thank you for making sure that all of those people get their recognition. Anthony Colucci.
My name is Anthony Colucci. I'm the president of the Brevard Federation of Teachers. First of all, I urge all stakeholders to watch the board's workshop that was held this morning about a reopening metric. It is posted on the Brevard Federation of Teachers Facebook page and offered a great deal of information for everyone. Most notably, I urge all to watch Ms. Belford's comments at 49 minutes into the meeting. She offers a thorough and pointed critique of the governor's reopening plan. BFT supports developing a reopening metric, and that metric must be developed before it's too late. Without a reopening metric in place, we are simply opening schools based on politics, not science. As our teachers are now in buildings, we need strong leadership from this board. The reopening plan and the protections offered in our MOA must be carried out with fidelity. This is how we mitigate against the spread of the virus. I remind you that the Department of Health clearly said that this morning. While I realize admins are trying to wrap their heads around a lot of information right now, I am concerned that some of them are choosing to ignore our efforts to mitigate against the spread. For instance, we secured language that essentially says a virtual link will be sent ahead of a staff meeting or professional development, so those who are uncomfortable attending in person can attend virtually. Having less people in a room is a mitigation strategy, one you're using right here at this meeting. Should our teachers not be afforded the same protections as you are? We've already got numerous calls where admins are trying to get people to come to meetings face to face. Come on now. Why am I even here having to explain why this is an issue? Furthermore, we secured language that says teachers can work remotely after students leave for the day. We did this so teachers would be in the buildings less time and out of the way of custodians. Those are called mitigation strategies. What I'm asking for from this board is for public support of these and other mitigation strategies. We need you as elected leaders to right here and now say you're supportive of these protections. Clear the air. I know most of you are supportive. Please say it so we can keep people safe. The superintendent takes direction from you and principals from him, so you need to lead on this. I will say on BFT's part, we are educating all members on the protections in place, and we are telling them to fight for those protections. On top of that, we are urging them to not let their guards down. We must all do everything we can to ensure safety this year. Anything less than everything puts our community in peril. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colucci. Mr. Ray, you are our last speaker for this evening. our last in-person speaker, I should say.
Dr. Mullins and the school board, thank you for letting me speak today. Whoa, hello. My name is Robert Ray. I'm one of your substitute teachers, and I'm just wondering what we can do to prepare for the coming year. That's it.
Thank you, sir. All right, do any board members wish to respond to any of this evening's speakers? Ms. Deskovich?
I do. Mr. Perlman and Mr. Colucci seem to have the same concerns, and I think it would be responsible of us to maybe address them a little bit right now since teachers are already back at school. I know we're a big organization, and I know we try to set some high-level rules, but I think at a time like this, it's important to allow the grace and flexibility that is it Perlman? Did I get that right? That Mr. Perlman mentioned. Do supervisors and principals have the authority to say, as Mr. Perlman requested, that he could call in from home? Dr. Mullins, can you help me with that one a little bit?
I don't know the specific circumstance of Mr. Perlman in his department. We did set the expectation and communicate to our supervisors that employees were to return in person to their work sites beginning no later than Monday of this week.
Okay, so do we have the flexibility? If we don't, I mean, we need to be open and honest with our staff because they seem to think that we should. And Mr. Colucci is saying that it's even written in the MO. It's not an MOU. It's an MOA. I'm sure people are watching right now and want this to be clarified. Do supervisors or principals have the authority to do that, or do we definitely need them all live all the time?
The MOU with the union addresses building level teachers, is my understanding. I'd have to get additional clarification from my team. And principals, that is understood that principals can extend attending a faculty meeting at the school virtually. I don't know the circumstances of Mr. Perlman is not a building level teacher, is my understanding. He's a resource teacher here at ESF. So I don't know the circumstances to that. I do trust our leaders to make sound decisions, but we also have employees that provide direct support and services to our employees across the district, and their work attendance is essential to make sure that we meet the needs of our schools as we take on the very big task of supporting them to reopen and support now 2 platforms of learning for our students, both in person and through e-learning.
I understand, and I don't want to give a pass to maybe the one employee out there that might try to take advantage, but I do want for us to send a clear message if we are willing. If we're willing to do it for teachers in school, where appropriate, when a supervisor thinks so, I would hope that we could extend that to employees in this building if it's appropriate and it's not absolutely necessary that they're live. This is a little personal for me. If I look back when I worked for Northrop Grumman, for example, there were times that I had a sick child and I was a single mother and there was work I could do from home, but the corporate policy was you couldn't work from home. And it used to just frustrate me because I would think, my supervisor sees I can work from home right now. I know I can get the work done. I could be with my sick child, but no one had the authority because someone up high said it wasn't okay when those of us that could see it could be okay. I'd want us to empower our supervisors. I don't know, Mr. Perlman said maybe he needed to be here, maybe he didn't, but just in general, is that something we can address?
I'll certainly address it with the senior staff.
Okay.
If the board wants to give me direction to extend that indefinitely, I certainly will take direction from the board.
I feel pretty strong about it for the reasons that I just explained. Not that I want everybody to be able to go rogue on their own decision, but I think their supervisor, if they feel it's feasible, I don't want them to feel contained by something that we've said, that you have to be there because we think that's best. I feel like a supervisor would know. I don't know. Anyone else want to chime in?
I would just recommend that there's within the spirit of grace and flexibility, that there's a place between be in a pod with 2 or 3 other employees and be at home. There are lots of places here on this campus, for example, that you can go and still be in the building and still be present, and out on the patio or another conference room. I would suggest that before we say, hey, can I be at home, which there's reasons why people need to be, on work site, right, for accountability above anything else probably, that there's another option there. and that is, you know, to find the place if you don't have an office of your own to do that. I would say that would be, you know, somewhere that you can comply without feeling concerned.
Ultimately, I think the safest place right now is home. If they need to be here, they need to be here. And I'm not going to fight for them to stay home by any stretch of the imagination. But if the employee feels like they can get the work done and the supervisor feels like they can get the work done, I would hope our supervisors are holding them accountable for getting the work done. Just, it seems like that's grace and flexibility right now.
Ms. McDougall, are you wanting to speak?
I do. So I just want a little clarification, if we can, with Mr. Colucci. Is this in the MOA that we're talking about? And are we talking about meetings? Is that what we're talking about? Okay.
Ms. McDougall, I would suggest Dr. Fetty could address
Okay,
the
that's
MOA,
probably true.
MOA on behalf of the district.
The MOA does allow for teachers who need to attend the meeting virtually from their classroom. It does not allow for working from home.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
So, yes, I think grace and flexibility were appropriate for the role. But the first thing that I thought of when I heard Mr. Perlman is if he is in a very small space with 3 other people, that's probably an issue that we need to look at as a whole, as far as making sure that the working space is appropriate and safe. And so that would be an area that I would just ask that we take a look at and see if, you know, if that is in fact an issue. And obviously, you know, we don't necessarily need to get down into the weeds on all of it, but I know that we've made some accommodations to ensure that our employees feel safe in their space. And so I think that would be important as well, just to make sure that there's no hindrance to being in your workspace when it's needed.
We have sent a memo to staff, you know, outlining what the expectations are for cubicle workspaces. Entering them, we've provided staff plexiglass barriers, as well as ensured that they can adhere to and maintain social distancing. I don't know Mr. Perlman's workspace personally, but I would be very surprised to hear that we hadn't already addressed any concerns related to social distancing, but I could certainly follow up with staff to ensure that's true.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Susan.
I'd like to say some stuff too. I didn't want to interrupt you, but you were.
Yeah, no, and I have to apologize because I have, Lewis is standing here waiting on me because I was actually supposed to go into our recorded comments before I open it up for board comment, and I completely got off track, but go ahead. Well, is it?
It's okay, we'll wait until the end.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because more people might talk about something.
Okay. We have just 2 recorded comments. Are you guys okay if I get back on track and then we'll come back to any discussion of the, I apologize for messing that up. Lewis, thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Sue Han, I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Facility Services for Brevard Public Schools. In consideration of safety concerns during the COVID-19 emergency, guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as Executive Order 20-91 issued by Governor DeSantis, it has been necessary to modify our procedures for public comment. Tonight, your comments will be recorded and we will play them back under the public comment section of the board meeting tomorrow. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Our moderator will keep track of your time and ask you to conclude your comments when you have reached 3 minutes. Always keep in mind that reasonable decorum is expected at all times. It's appropriate for our children who may be watching or listening from home. Before speaking, please state your name, the organization you represent, if any, and identify the topic you'll be discussing. We won't be answering questions on tonight's call, but our staff will follow up with you if you have a question or need a response. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, Ms. Logsdon, you can go ahead with your comments. State your first and last name, please, and then go ahead.
Yes, good evening. My name is Reba Logston, and I am a school bus driver for Brevard County Public Schools, and I come out of the North Area compound. I am a veteran bus driver of 26 years, and I am also the union steward for the local 1010 for my compound. In my 26 years of driving, I have been able to from kids throwing up 5 minutes after mom puts him on the bus to all-out brawls and even concealed weapons. But this COVID-19 virus scares me the most It is a silent killer. You can't and won't see it. Your reasoning behind opening the schools is that children are less likely to contract and spread the virus. According to the Florida Department of Health, over 31,000 children under 17 tested positive for the virus statewide as of July 2nd. That is up from 23,000 from February until July 16, 2020. The latest death row on record is a 9-year-old girl with no known conditions. Florida has the third highest number of COVID-19 cases after New York and California. Epidemiologists agree community spread of COVID-19 can't be controlled if positivity rate is above 5%. That's 5%. Here today, the school board says that students are to wear masks on bus and are to sit 2 per seat. Sitting 2 persons per seat is not 6 feet apart. What will be the mandate if students show up at the bus stop without a mask or do not keep the mask on? I've had parents drop off their children at the bus stop and run. Drivers will be expected to wipe down all seats in common touched areas between. This will surely cause delays in picking up the other students, which could cause delay in getting those students to school and delay school start times. Many of our drivers are what could be considered high risk. Many are over the age of 60 and have under. I am 63 and relatively in good health, but my husband is 72 and a cancer survivor and also has diabetes. My daughter and my grandson have recently moved in with us, and I do not wish to bring this virus home. I have a mantra: you cannot lead unless you have followed. How can you reasonably expect us to follow when you yourself will not shake our hands or sit on a bus just a foot away from your seat now? The school board needs to reconsider face-to-face openings of the school for please take into consideration the health and well-being of the support staff, the bus drivers, the lunchroom ladies, and the custodians. Most of all, take into consideration the health of our most precious resources, our children. Thank you.
So go ahead and say your first and last name and then your comment.
Yes, my name is Kathy West. I am a substitute teacher. I would like to also say that we're still in a sub-crisis, and now we're in another situation where we're dealing with COVID-19. My suggestion is to start the school year out hazard pay for all employees, because as it is, sub-pay is not adequate as it is right now. And so subs are very concerned, and I'm sure most of them are scared to have to work in an environment with inadequate pay. And I also would like to suggest that we start the year off as virtual learning, because we're in the epicenter of this coronavirus, and it doesn't seem like it's getting a whole lot better, especially for Florida. And that concludes my announcement.
Well, thank you, Ms. Wester. I believe that's all the comments that we have for this process, and I appreciate your patience with our technical difficulties tonight. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Francisco, and thank you to all of our speakers who took part in the opportunity. Just to let the board members know, and our public know for that matter, I typically try to log on and listen to the calls when they're recorded, just in case we have any technical issues, and Ms. Han and I work through them and figure out what our best course of action is to respond to those. She was really jumping through some hoops last night because our vendor that provides the recording is in Iowa something.
Colorado, and their servers are in Iowa.
Okay.
They were knocked out by a major storm. I guess they had hurricane force winds in Iowa last night, so they knocked out the power,
I know,
knocked
right?
out their systems, but they came through with a Zoom alternative for us.
Yes, so they ended up working it all out. I had the opportunity to listen last night, and I did send an email out to Reba Logston, our bus driver, just with some additional information for her so she understood the situation that we were in with, the mandates as far as reopening schools. So, and I understand, Dr. Mullins, that Dr. Theddy has some additional information on our previous topic of discussion.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to provide some clarity around the language in the MOA. The MOA speaks to administrators making every effort to have face-to-face staff meetings or professional development in spaces that 6 feet of social distancing is attainable. In meetings where that cannot be possible, face coverings are obviously required per our board direction. If members of the bargaining unit do not feel comfortable attending a meeting where face coverings are not worn, they can attend the meeting virtually, and principals are to send out a link prior to that meeting. The other piece that I wanted to clarify is, with the exception of early release days, members of the bargaining unit will have the option of working off campus after student dismissal when there are no other obligations, such as team meetings, IEP meetings, or parent conferences. Just wanted to provide that clarity.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. We'll pick up where we left off with board members wishing to respond to speakers or additional discussion there. Ms. Campbell, I think you were giving me a nod that you wanted to speak.
Yeah, unless Mr. Susan, did you?
I was just going to go through and just make comments.
Okay. Similar. I was, first of all, I know that we always love when students come and advocate for themselves. I think that's the word that Dr. Sullivan she especially likes when students come. So thank you, Chloe, for coming and sharing your heart. And, last year's seniors talked about how tough it was for them, and it was. But this whole summer, I've been thinking about this year's seniors. And again, that grieve the loss phrase comes to mind. And no matter how much we can get back to normal, it still won't be what you had dreamed that it would be. And so I thank you for sharing your heart. Some of the things that you talked about tonight, some of them will be in our control and some of them won't. And so, but I know I understand as a parent of musicians especially, that our extracurriculars are very important. And I am so thankful for our band directors and our coaches and our choir directors and all those who are really working to try to figure out how do we make this happen in such a strange year. So, but thank you for coming. I wanted to give, is it Cisco? Sisto, sorry. I wanted to just share, and I don't expect our public to have watched all the 20, 30 something hours worth of meetings that we've had over the last month. But I just want to reiterate that what we all experienced last quarter is not going to be what we're going to experience this year, because really our teachers and our staff did a commendable job for throwing it together in a week. But our students who are doing e-learning will actually have their teacher in front of them on the screen doing the same in real time, and tell me if I'm getting off, Dr. Sullivan, but doing the same real-time instruction that their peers who are in the class, the same instruction that they're receiving. And so, and some of that there may be part of that block, because we're doing block schedule, part of that 90 minutes where they say, okay, now go and spend the rest of the time doing this research or this reading or whatever, but it will be rigorous instruction preparing them for those AP exams or whatever it may be. So when people think about what it was like in the spring, just don't. No, but I would encourage you to go and to contact your school. It is not too late to choose e-learning, correct, Dr. Sullivan? So if you want to get some more specific information about that, I would contact your school. You won't know your schedule yet until your school does their registration. That's a little different for each one. And then also, Dr. Theddy, would you speak for the substitutes? I know I heard some information, thank you, Mr. Ray, for coming, about how we're going to prepare our substitutes for this coming year.
Thank you. So we're working out some training for substitutes related to safety protocols, related to PPE, things that you'll do with your students. I've got a team working with Mr. Cheatham's team on how substitutes will be able to manage all the different platforms in the classroom. That is not ready to roll out yet, but they are working on that.
Good, good, good. So, and because we completely understand how essential you guys always are, but especially this year, it's going to be a big year. So, and I knew that you guys hadn't forgotten them, so I wanted to make sure that Mr. Ray knew that as well. That's all I have.
Mr. Susan?
Thank you. I truly believe in grace and flexibility. Where my concern comes from is I was under the impression that we would try to take every aspect and every opportunity to keep people socially distanced, but then also online. So when we came back, and I hear movements that we had people inside of a room, you know, staff inside of a room where they can be socially distanced 6 feet apart, to me, it was kind of counterproductive in my vision, and it may not have been what the board's decision was and everything else, but the bottom line is that if we're going to move to an e-learning platform in the event that we're closing schools and everything else, then everything that we do should behoove to practice and prepare for that movement. So if we're coming back and we're in the same room for 4 hours, eating lunch, doing all that stuff, I think that's counterproductive or counterintuitive or counter whatever it is that we would be moving towards. So I'm all about that, and I applaud the district for giving the teachers the opportunity to leave during early releases and get out. It gives us an opportunity to do deep cleaning over the time period that's there. The other reason that I think that it gives us an opportunity at the end of the day to leave is because those custodians need as much time inside those classrooms to clean up and get to the next day, which is going to be difficult. But the idea that we have some principals bringing in staff members into a big room instead of just letting them be virtual inside their classrooms, I don't think that's a good idea. I would talk against that. And I think that the opportunity, it should be that we move towards an e-learning type situation where if the teachers can attend a virtual meeting online, that they attend that online. So that was that piece. So Mr. Perlman, that would be what I would say to that. The next thing is that the second speaker, and I forgot your name, ma'am, but my daughter takes AP. I was an AP teacher. I holistically understand what you're talking about. I'm sorry that you had a bad experience. We have some of the most amazing resource teachers, AP people to contact at the district. So if you are experiencing something like that, if you can immediately, please reach out to them. I do know as a former AP teacher that that is an unacceptable behavior that you may have felt. So if you can reach out so that we can take corrective measures to take care of that, that would be amazing. So it depends on which one of if you're in secondary, you would start with the secondary schools, and then you would, depending on science has one, history has another. If you call the front office and you ask them, they'll get you to the right person eventually. Or Dr. Sullivan can speak up too. Okay, I don't want to speak. She is in charge of all of that, and she is much, there we go. Go ahead. So that's Dr. Sullivan, and she will definitely take care of that. But I hear you, my daughter's taking AP right now, same thing. I would encourage you to make the decision that's best for your family, not so much what's best for, because of that piece. I do know that the e-learning piece, my daughter is going to be attending in person, but I felt very comfortable with the e-learning also. So there's that piece, if that helps. Ms. Chloe, I agree with you 100%. My daughter right now is there also. When I was a teacher, I had 8 or 9 extracurriculars in my class. I mean, I had a strategy club where these kids came in and talked strategy, right? I know that the meaning behind a student feeling a part of a school gives them the attachment that sometimes they don't have at home. So I applaud you for bringing this up, because not only clubs and activities, but sports. And when you said that you can have access to something that you can get your feelings out to, it is a huge opportunity. And everybody on this board, I will tell you, advocates for exactly the extracurricular activities that you are looking for, and they fight for them. I know Ms. Deskovich I can tell you right now that everybody on here fights for that, and we'll do our best job, but at the same time remaining safe for all of our staff and everything else. But I do want to say thank you for coming all the way up here. It means a lot when we have teachers or our students come up here, so thank you. Dolores 1010, thanks. I agree with you. The one thing that always gets missed is, and I'm a very big problem with it, is that I'm always talking about teacher this, teacher that, because I used to be a teacher. And sometimes I forget to say that the support staff is just as committed inside their heart to what they do and the mission, and you can see that just with this facilities crew, with everybody else. So Dolores, thank you for coming down and speaking today. Anthony, I spoke about the same protections. Robert, I do, Miss as far as the substitutes, which is Robert and Miss Kathy West, which we love having Miss Kathy come on. Preparing for the substitutes, we're 2 weeks out, right? Is there a deadline, Dr. Theddy, that we are going to get these information to them, like so that do they know to be prepared, that they are going to have to take something? Do we have them having to take whatever it is that you're doing prior to them coming back? Can you talk about that process? Because I get it that we have all these things coming, but it's getting down to be the 14-day mark. Can you give them some guidance? Is that what you're looking for, Mr. Ray?
I don't have the date of rollout yet, but it'll be before the start of school for substitutes to be able to work with the tech associate at the school, because there are some challenges with how things are set up that we're trying to work through, so that a substitute who might be in a secondary class with students in class face-to-face, may have some e-learning students, could potentially have a teacher who's quarantined due to being a contact to a case with a close familial relationship, trying to work through all of that. There are a lot of logistics we're working out, and as soon as we have that done, we will be getting it out to our 700, and I believe we're up to 46 substitutes that have responded to us that they will be returning this year. We did do a letter of request to all of our substitutes, and we've heard back from the majority of them, and of them, over 700 are planning to come back. And what that will look like is virtual, obviously, and we have all of your email addresses and a way to push it out through our SmartFind system so that you'll have access to everything. Thank you.
So, Dr. Theddy, are you saying that this would be something that the substitute comes onto campus, talks to the tech about, or is that something that you think a video is going to come to them? I think they're kind of wondering what that piece is they're going to look like, or is it still they're going to get something and we're working that piece out and they're going to get that within the next 7 days and it'll be before school or something? I mean,
Mr. Susan, we're working it out. The logistics are pretty intense that we're trying to fix with access to the teacher's computer to be able to, or not the teacher's computer, but to a computer to be able to monitor and log into all the different sites. So once we have that, we will roll that out to subs. The tech associate at the school will be integral in helping out with making sure they're set up to go live, I guess, on that day they're there.
okay, thank you. Does that help you out, Mr. Ray? You get ready. It's going to be interesting for you, and we love the opportunity that you came here tonight and that you're willing to ask those questions and put it on the radar. Our substitutes are just the same as everybody else. We're all in this together. We're big heroes, and going forward, it's going to be tough. And I think the message that some of the unions said last Friday, what I hear from many of our school board members along with Dr. Mullins, is that we are all in this together and that it's not going to be perfect, but somehow we're going to have to find a way through it. And that's a perfect example with the substitutes, and I applaud Dr. Theddy and your office for trying to take that on. I know that's a huge task. With the school bus driver, I agree with you 100%. It's a difficult situation. We are coming back to schools, and it's going to be a difficult situation for many that are in that risk class. And I apologize for ahead of time for the situation and conditions that we're under, but this is what we're going to be faced to do. So I appreciate everybody, and I hope that helps everybody with the comments. That's the first time I've ever gone through everybody, but I think it's something that we needed to do if they're going to come down here and talk to us.
I'm just glad we didn't have 136 speakers tonight, Mr. Susan. That would have been a lot of you talking. Anyone else? Before I have a couple of comments, but Ms. McDougall, you want to speak?
I have a question. So we're at this point in phase 2. So I can envision in a high school, because there's many more teachers and support staff in a high school than there would be in, let's say, an elementary school. So I'm trying to think of a space that would be big enough to have people 6 feet apart, Dr. Theddy. So I guess I'm just concerned that people are so rigid, and I don't want them to be so rigid to, as we're using the word flexibility and grace, and I don't want to, take away the power from our administrators, because that's their school and they know their spaces. But at the same time, people are scared. People are scared, and you all know how I feel. And so I feel that we do need to be a little bit more flexible. And again, I don't want to step on any of my principals' toes, but at the same time, we need to be reasonable for our teachers. I'm trying to think of spaces in my elementary school I can't,
Cafeteria? Like you
well,
could-
but even the cafeteria though, I mean, think about it, we've only got 2 at a table. I mean, so I don't know, I just would like us to be open-minded and flexible about that.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. I will make just a couple of follow-up comments, and it's nothing that I haven't said before, but I think the more I can say it and the more our public can potentially hear it, the better off we are. The bottom line is that unless we keep our numbers of people down, our risk is going to be higher. There is not a zero risk return to school. And so most people have heard me say, and I've shared it with the media as well, if parents are able to take advantage of e-learning and it is workable for their student, and I say that because for some students it simply is not, but if they are able to and it is workable for their student, I encourage parents to take advantage of that e-learning opportunity, because it'll provide a seamless opportunity to roll back into the classroom when numbers are lower. It'll help us keep our numbers low in the school. But there are some other things that go along with that too. Transportation is going to be a real challenge, and what we heard from our bus driver is no joke. It's going to be a serious challenge. So if parents can provide their own transportation for their children to school, if the children can walk or bike safely, we need to keep our numbers down on our buses, absolutely. And we also need to make sure that we are being cognizant of numbers of adults coming together in a school. This morning, Ms. Campbell referenced a letter that was put together by our 3 Central Florida children's hospitals. And they clearly say that, in all honesty, the most dangerous place in a school is probably going to be the faculty lounge, because people are going to feel like they can take their masks off and relax and have lunch together. And that is something that we absolutely have to consider as we are rolling back into school, is making sure that we're not congregating. And then the 2 other elements that are going to be incredibly important to our success are making sure that we and all of our community is making good choices outside of the school. Because we've heard over and over again that what's going on in our community is probably more important than what's going on in our schools with regard to spread rate. So if we have a high rate, you know, if adults in our schools are going out and celebrating after they get off work and spending time together at barbecues on the weekend with people that they're not familiar with, those are the areas where we see the spread. And we've seen it in all of the hospitals. They will tell you people at the hospital are not getting sick at the hospital. They're getting sick in the community. And then probably the most important thing that we need to ask of our community is, if you are sick or your child is sick, stay home. That's going to be critical to our success to return. And you know, much of what we're hearing falls in with all of those elements. We all want to get back to extracurriculars, Chloe. We get it. We all want to get back to, you know, having faculty meetings in person. But we need to do what we can in the interim to make sure that we can do it safely and consistently keep our schools open. So, any other comments before we move on to our consent agenda?
Ms. Balford, may I just wanted to address a comment from Mr. Colucci. He actually brought to my attention his concern yesterday when we met about the expectation and the adherence to the safety measures and protocols we put in place, specifically wearing masks and so on, and he addressed it in his comments tonight. And I'll share publicly what I shared with him last night. It is absolutely my expectation as a superintendent of Brevard schools that we adhere to our requirement of wearing masks. And that transcends to all of our schools. There are exceptions that are allowable, and we'll certainly understand those. But we have to take personal responsibility, and we have to take group responsibility to model and demonstrate our commitment to this. So, Mr. Colucci, I say to you again, we'll absolutely, and if there are concerns, bring them to the attention that we discussed yesterday, and it will be addressed. So.
And Dr. Thadde, I believe that you wanted to respond to a comment.
Mrs. McDougall, I didn't jump in quickly enough before, but what I would really like to say about what the schools have set up, schools did a variety of things. No principal did the same thing as the other principal. We had schools that split their faculties in half and were able to social distance in a library or media center or cafeteria or auditorium in the high school level. We had principals who sent out virtual links and did everything virtually, and teachers were in their classrooms. They wanted to provide some sense of camaraderie, but monitoring and holding to the social distancing and the facial covering wearing, and making sure that teachers felt welcome and felt supported when they came back also. So I saw a variety of things happening, and I've talked to a lot of principals over the last few days, over this weekend as well, as they were getting things set up for their first day of school. And they were trying to meet their faculty's needs to the best that they could. And I saw pictures of what they've done, and I did see 6 feet of social distancing in those cases where they brought people together. But other principals chose not to bring people together and chose to have teachers work from their classrooms and work virtually while they did their back-to-school activities. So it just depended on the school and the needs of the school.
Oh, thank you.
All right, that moves us into the consent agenda. Dr. Mullins.
There are 12 agenda items under this category.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. Does any board member wish to pull any item from the consent agenda? Then I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Any discussion? Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0.
Ms. Belford?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, just, it wasn't discussion related to the vote, but I just wanted to point out that one of the things we just approved on the consent agenda was the CARES Act, the first round of CARES Act approval, which we got for our plan this last week, right? And so if people want to follow up on the agenda to see some of those things that have already been approved, they can check that out on our agenda page.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. We will now move on to the action agenda. Dr. Mullins.
Ms. Belford and members of the board, there are a total of 4 action items for us to go through this evening. Item G21 is on the emergency rule policy regarding face coverings.
We had discussion this afternoon and determined some amendments to the policy as presented. Do I have a motion to approve the recommended emergency policy authorizing the superintendent to require face coverings consistent with the policy effective August 11, 2020 to remain in effect for 90 days unless extended pursuant to section 120.54 paren 4 Florida statutes and amended per the following. Remove the future policies on the top of the policy document. In section 2, add an IEP and 504 exception that removes the mask requirement based upon documentation that has been provided during the IEP and 504 process. And in section 2, remove supervisor approval for employees if they are maintaining social distancing defined as 6 feet. And in section 4, change faculty are encouraged to use face shields to faculty are allowed to use face shields.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Any discussion? Please vote. And the motion passes 4-1. Dr. Mullins.
Sorry, I'm catching up here. Item G22 on the amendment to school reopening plan.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yeah, and this is related to the last item as well. I still feel the way that I have felt for the last weeks, and you guys understand it, so I won't repeat the things that I've said before. But, one of the reasons why we had to have the emergency rule that we just had is because we changed the language from expected to required. Then we have to have a policy. And the reason why I can vote yes on that item and on this is because, you know, the policy as it's written has the exceptions that I was hoping we would have for the people who, you know, the younger students who it's difficult for, the ones who have the medical exceptions. But you know, at this point, the board, even if it was 3-2, the board made the decision to 2 weeks ago when we met to change the language, and I think that we have tried to make this as easy of a transition for our students and parents as possible. While I still don't agree with the idea of, you know, letting it be something that's, you know, requiring discipline over something that we can teach into with expected, which again, I appreciate Dr. Mullins continuing to say that he expects it from the top down. I do appreciate the work that the staff has done, including Mr. Gibbs over there, to try to help us formulate a plan that we can all come around. And I certainly want to, you know, not continue to fight when the battle, but I do appreciate the work that the staff has done, no matter what my initial thoughts have been.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Any additional discussion? Please vote. And the motion passes 4-1. Dr. Mullins.
Item G23 is board action on procurement solicitations.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Deskovich. Any discussion? Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
Item G24 is on department school-initiated agreements.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is that you, Ms. Campbell, with the second?
Yes.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Any discussion? Please vote. The motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins? Oh, no. It is me. We will move on to the information agenda, which includes items for board review and may be brought back for action at a subsequent meeting. No action will be taken on these items tonight. Dr. Mullins?
There are 3 items under the information category.
Does any member wish to discuss any item? Okay. Does any board member have anything else they would like to report at this time?
Is this board reports?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I have one thing that I'm remiss, and I feel very bad. So when I was giving a shout out to our principal of the year, I forgot the assistant principal of the year.
Ms. McDougall.
Oh, I know, my microphone's not on, I'm so sorry. As I was saying that, I forgot to give a shout out to our assistant principal of the year, who is at Rockledge, and that's Carrie, oh boy.
Kalaga.
Thank you, Kalaga. So congratulations to Terry at Rockledge for the assistant principal of the year.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall, for reminding us to celebrate that. We appreciate it. Any other board members have anything to discuss at this point? Dr. Mullins, do you have anything more? There being no further business, this meeting is now adjourned. Have a great night.